What's going on, everybody? We are on with Mr. Ty Raver, who is one of our operating partners. Ty, if you don't mind saying hello to the network and giving a quick overview of like what were you doing beforehand and what was it that made you interested in working with us in the first place?
Yeah, like Ryan said, my name is Ty Raver. I actually joined Acquisition Network in, I think, May of last year is when I first started talking with Ryan. What had happened with me is I was a CFO of a small, multi-territory durable medical equipment um, supplier, and they were pretty dependent on government contracts, and we'll just say that the government stopped buying things. So I recognized that I needed to come up with an alternate thing, and I was looking at other opportunities and spoke with Ryan and was very intrigued with this space. I've always been intrigued with the acquisition space. I've actually gone through an acquisition myself, which didn't work out so well. Uh, but I learned a lot through that experience and have kind of been on the bench due to those circumstances. And this was an opportunity to get off the bench, so to speak.
And yeah, Ty, if you don't mind sharing what happened with that acquisition, why didn't it work out, and why does that make you like actually one of the best people to learn from with like anyone that wants to get into the space?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll say that a long history is I worked in the home services industry for 15 years, and I grew somebody else's business from about $4 million to 16, $17 million in revenue. That kind of, you have those attitudes and actions between owners and people who were promised equity in the company, and that doesn't follow suit. All those things, and eventually I just decided it was time to go try to do my own thing, knowing that I had pretty good success in growing a small business in literally every facet of that business. And so I had an idea for bringing a buddy's business concept to the market in which I lived. Talked with an SBA lender. The SBA lender said, "Hey, there's all of these boomer businesses. There's all these businesses that are going up for sale, uh, and we would rather, as a bank, rather than lend you a little bit of money for a new concept in a new market, we would rather you find a profitable business and lend you money for that business because it's already showing profitability. And that seems like a better hedge on our bet as a bank." So that got me into biz buy sell a long time ago, really about 5 years ago, and started looking at businesses. Found a very profitable, viable business in the local market, um, and began to contact and go through the entire process, including lending. Went through due diligence and everything the way that I needed to, the way that the bank expected me to do it, and ultimately purchased the business and found out that revenue went from $150,000 a month to $0 a month very quickly. Turns out that I had been defrauded. The people that sold me the business literally cheated on their taxes. When I got done with, well, after the acquisition, I found out that they submitted um, a 1040X on their taxes and somehow found a whole bunch of expenses that did not exist previously. So that was my experience. And it was straight up fraud. But unfortunately, what people don't tell you is that there are no lemon laws when it comes to business. The pathway um, for success, or the pathway for overcoming something like that from a legal standpoint, is very minimal, unless of course you're JP Morgan Chase, who you know can pay a whole bunch of high powered attorneys. So that's the circumstance that ultimately took me into, um, a couple years later, bankruptcy and recovery. And so that's kind of how ended up here without really any assets to get off the bench, so to speak. that's why Acquisition Network seemed like a good place to take my experience, having been through an acquisition before, understanding the process, but now understanding even more about where those red flags come in, not only from business operations, business financials, but uh, also in interactions with sellers is a whole thing that you have to understand.
So you would say because you've lived the biggest fear of most people, you would be one of the best people to learn from. And like, how would somebody that's working with you benefit with you doing due diligence now that you have experienced something like that before?
I'm very deliberate with my clients. I have multiple people that I work with who are looking at investing in small businesses, and they they will throw things at me from time to time, and it enables me to have a good conversation with them about those industries, about what I see when we do get access to financial information, things to look for that they need to be concerned about, that we should be concerned about, making sure that they understand, you know, also having been a CFO, and also my general business experience, not just my acquisition experience, tying all of that together helps me to give my clients a very realistic view of what to expect, um, as well as what makes a good deal, and what deals look good but really probably aren't.
No, no, thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, your experience is invaluable, and we're so happy to have you. What would you say to somebody that was on the fence in the same seat that you were sitting in May? So I was pitching you, Ty. I was like, hey, come on as an operating partner. I need you to do this work, and I don't have a salary for you. I'm sorry. What would you say to somebody like if we were sharing this to another qualified corporate professional that wants to get into private equity? You already knew how to do deals. What would you say that you learned working with us, and what have you benefited from, and why are you still around? Like, right, you could have left.
Yeah, I probably could have left. I would say that from an opposition, or from an operation partner standpoint, there's a lot of flexibility to learn and do what you want to learn. Like initially, I came in and I had I think one client was given to me, maybe two right off the bat. Um, but then it was up to me as to how much of my time and effort I could devote to it. So the actual time and effort, you have control over that. If you're obsessive compulsive, of course you can spend all your time doing it, but the reality of it is you can do it while you're still making money in the real world outside of this, right? So that's important. It was important for me. I really kind of at the point in my life where I'm done working for other people. And so the goal, the hope that I had was to follow this through, see where it led, with the hope of having a business consulting, management consulting type of business. I had actually done that as an employee for a management consulting firm in small business space a while back. I enjoyed the work, but did not enjoy we'll call it the ethics of that particular experience. Um, because I know I can help small business. I know I can help small business owners. And so that's always been a passion of mine. And in this space, it gives me the opportunity to do that either through where I'm at right now, which is taking over an acquisition, or working with small businesses to uh, help them get better. But Acquisition Network is a launching point for what my vision was and continues to be, which is to have essentially my own firm that is doing work in the small business space.
Got it. Yeah. So for anybody that may be watching this, to summarize, Ty wants to grow his consulting business, and the advantage of working with Acquisition Network is he doesn't have to market and sell to clients. The clients are there and available. He just has to fulfill, and then the more fulfillment that he does, the easier it is going to be for him to get clients. and to get fees and cash flow on those fees. Uh, Ty, if you don't mind me,
Which also happens, by the way, to be the thing that I don't really care to do, which is I tend to like the client acquisition portion of things um, is not really my go-to.
that's the hardest thing with starting a consulting business. You could be Albert Einstein, but if you can't get people to pay you,
Yeah.
you don't have a consulting business. But thankfully for you, I'm the expert marketing sales guy, and I got clients signing up every week, and that's yeah why we're looking for more operating partners, people that want to learn the process of completing acquisitions so that they can be compensated and learn how to do deals on their own, or in Ty's case, be able to accrue his own nest egg so he can get back in the game and do it on his own. Um, you got a thought,
And
Ty?
the best thing about it is, yeah, there's wins for me, but it's also the fulfillment of getting wins for the clients.
Of course.
Uh, my partners, the investment partners on this particular acquisition that I'm at right now, super excited about this business and this opportunity and what we think we can do with it.
Yeah, on that note, if you don't mind sharing, because we haven't done the interview with Reed and Carl, they're extremely busy.
Yeah.
Can you mind telling the audience like what their background is, why are they so busy, what deal that you ended up identifying for them, what were the terms of the deal, like the down payment, cash flow, and all that, and then how did you make money out of the deal?
We may not want to talk about the terms of the deal because it didn't follow it doesn't follow the I call it the playbook, right?
Yeah.
It's not fortunately, Reed and Carl are fairly successful contractors.
Mm-hmm.
They do they do a lot of work for a particular company in their home state, which keeps them extremely busy. They just found out at the time we were in the middle of acquiring this business, they just found out that particular company that hired them fired their other two contractors. So they essentially, their volume of work increased significantly.
Yeah, like
so
they own like a whole state for a franchise, basically.
Yeah, more or less.
More or less, guys.
So they don't really have the time to be involved in the day to day. So it was a little bit of a different pitch to them as far as this. This is a niche manufacturing business that was a little bit of a turnaround, and I say that, but the industry in which this business has been in a general decline. So it's kind of following that path. However, the thing that I identified is that it is a manufacturing that deals directly with dealers to sell the product to consumers, and those dealers are out there killing their food every day to eat, and so they are needing this product to survive. I also happen to identify that the dealer network had not really been expanded in recent history, and honestly, when I went down to Florida to meet with the owner, I caught his vision for what his company was, his legacy, and how important the business was to him, and that was very important to me to understand that, so that I can personally understand what the business means to him and what it means to the people that he's developed his relationships, namely the dealers, and carrying that through and explaining that, giving that story to Reed and Carl. They bought in with the whole thing, and we're very excited for the opportunity.
And yeah, I mean, I know you don't want to go into tons of details, but like, what's like the cash flow the client's going to walk away with?
The cash flow in this business is probably going to be, well, it's a turnaround, right? The cash flow in the business is about 150K overall on the work. We didn't take a strong debt position because the business was kind of a lower buy. So the cash flow should be used for reinvestment and also dividends, of course, to the shareholders.
Got it. So it's like 150. What was the down payment? Was it like 200?
Well, that was for the actual business. It was 200 for the business, plus we paid for inventory on top of that. The total deal is about 400 grand. The cash flow on paper is somewhere between 150, 200K. Part of that is I reworked the entire financials of it to make sure that the broker was on par and I looked at how things were going to work as a projection basis. And I understood that the break-even point for this business was much lower than what its revenue was. So there was a lot of room for things. So it's like I said, it's not the traditional sense of things where you're putting it down a minimum down payment and then covering that with debt service. You can certainly do those things in the market, but that's not really what this deal was. This was more of a vision and an opportunity that those guys they caught it and understood that we've got a little bit of ways to go. I anticipate, just to be frank, I anticipate doubling the size of this business within 2 years.
Why do you feel that way? What are they manufacturing, and how does your background align with the company being able to grow?
Sure, it's actually a product in the pool safety, arena in the state of Florida, which has strong pool safety laws.
Yeah.
The reason why I feel that way is that regionally we have dealers across a portion of Florida, but we're missing a significant portion of Florida. And so growing the dealer network across Florida is important. There are specific laws in Florida that essentially require this particular product. And so it's just a matter of expanding the dealer network in Florida. There are laws regarding this particular product in the state of California. We have dealers out in California, but only in a certain portion of the state. So that gives me an entire different state to get dealers for. And I believe there are also regulations or insurance requirements in 2 other states that are advantageous for this particular product. So it's more a matter of developing a dealer network of people who are passionate about their work, who will sell the product to the end user.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of opportunity for growth.
Yes.
And if you don't mind me asking, Ty, it sounds like cash flows for growth. How much, if any, were you able to negotiate from the owners to manage the company for them?
For me personally,
Yeah.
we have a we'll call it a hybrid situation.
Yeah.
As far as what we're doing, the hybrid situation is based on an earn-out for me as an operating partner on the equity piece. I'm starting off with a portion of equity and also taking a management fee because I'm going to be involved in the day-to-day of this business until I get it to the point where I've got somebody working in the day-to-day management as a GM, which may take a while because of the vision for what we're trying to do here.
So what is the fee, like $3,000, $5,000 a month? I'm assuming it's
I'm actually doing a percentage of revenue. That is the way I set it up. Is I'm doing it a percentage of revenue that corresponds with the market rate for a GM for this particular industry.
Okay, and what is that? Because I'm not familiar with
it. It varies, but it's 5% up to $2 million, 2.5% from $2 to $5 million in revenue, and 1.5 after that. I will tell you, we won't get anywhere near there because it'll have a GM probably when I hit the 3 million revenue, and the revenue starting out is under $1 million to start out. Got it.
But it's still, so 5%, that's still 50 out of a year divided by 12. That's $4K a month. Like that's
my sales goal for the first year. Again, not making any major changes in the business. I got to get my feet wet. I have to. My approach to taking over businesses, I want to learn as much from the seller as possible to understand the dynamics of the industry, create my relationships with the existing dealers, preserve those relationships. So there's not going to be any major changes, but I do have a sales goal for the first year of $1 million, which is somewhat conservative, and then hope to hit 2 million in year 2.
So there you go. So year from now, you can get that to like upwards to 8,000 a month in management.
Well, if I hit 2 million, then the total 5% would be 100K per year for a business that, realistically I can do part-time.
So part-time, and then how many other clients you're working with, Ty?
I have 7 other clients beyond.
So you have 7 other. So what do you think the timeline would be to close on those people based upon what you've seen?
Well, the presence of liquidity here made this a very quick close. We were able to get this done in a short period of time. when you throw in lending, I will tell you this, a little piece of wisdom from having gone through acquisition. A lot of acquisition, I tell my clients this, a lot of it is hurry up and wait. You're waiting on other people to do things. So it's hard to determine timelines for a lot of things.
Understood. Like it's
realistically speaking, I've got another deal under LOI that I expect to close, hopefully by the end of first quarter. That is a regulated industry, and it's a, I like to call that one my bubblegum and duct tape deal, because that deal is a great deal, but it has a lot of things working to get it to where it needs to be to get it to close. So it's a lot of patience involved in that deal. But realistically, I mean, it's a reasonable timeline that once we identify a business and are able to make inroads with the broker and convince the seller that we're the right buyer, it should be hopefully within 3 months.
3 months. So based upon what you've experienced with us, it's been May. What is that? That's like 6-7 months. So you would say end of next year, do you think you'd be able to negotiate making 100 to 200K a year with us? Is that feasible, if not more?
Depending on the actual deals that we find and how that works, I'd say that is a pretty conservative estimate, to be honest with you.
Like you could get, by the end of the year, you can get to 200 to 300 in like annual cash flow.
I think that's probably reasonable between everything that is going on with how I'm building my consulting business, and in conjunction with Acquisition Network and the potential of overseeing other businesses that come through my my operating partner funnel.
Yeah. So let's just put in perspective, everybody. So say you put in work for a year and a half, you make a multiple 6-figure salary, and it's your business.
Yeah, but also that's recurring revenue. And
recurring.
I look at it as an operator is to scale, essentially.
And you could double those things. So like 5 years from now, you could potentially be making 500, 600 a year.
I'd say that's reasonable. I think that again, my idea is to develop a consulting firm alongside this, and potentially have my passion, like I said, is in small business. So I think with my ability, with what I know I can do in a small business, and picking good deals for my clients and the right kinds of deals, I think that's perfectly reasonable.
So on that note, guys, what I should be asking you, Ty, is to anybody that's on the fence of becoming an operating partner, based upon what you've experienced so far and what we just projected, what would you say to them as far as like taking the leap and working with Acquisition Network?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great learning experience. If you don't have a lot of acquisition experience, I'm there's other people in the network, including me, as well as other people in the network who do have a wealth of experience in the acquisition space, who are always there to help. If I need something and something that I'm not as familiar with, I know who to go to find that within Acquisition Network. So it's a great forum to learn the process. It's a great forum to get creative with. Really, that's kind of the way I looked at it. It's about creativity. What did I want to get out of it, and then how can that happen? And I think that there are enough people at Acquisition Network who can help answer that question and help guide to that result.
And on that note, is like, right, you've done acquisitions before, but what would you say is like the biggest thing you pulled from like working with like David, who's done 10 deals, or having access to Ty? Like, did you meet any lenders? Did you learn any new financial tricks that, like, if you left the company today, that you'd be able to use in your personal career?
Oh, if I left Acquisition Network now, I don't need Acquisition Network at this point. And I say that.
No, that's what I wanted to. That's what it's supposed to be.
Because of going through the process and having been exposed to enough within Acquisition Network, that I would be stable outside of Acquisition Network in order to do the same kinds of things. From my perspective, though, it goes back to what Ryan was talking about earlier. Ryan brings in the leads and brings those things in, and so it doesn't really behoove me to go outside of actually network because then I got to go do that part. I don't
Yeah.
want to do that part.
You don't want to go sell people and follow
Right.
up.
So I feel like, for me, I have all the resources that I need to do what I'm really passionate about doing in my life, which is working with and in small businesses to make them better, to make them grow, to help people. Because at the end of the day, to me, that's what a small business is. I don't remember what the stats are. It's like 80% of Americans are employed by a small business.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is life-changing work for the people that you are able to help along the way. Now that I have employees, I had a heart-to-heart with an employee this morning who was just about getting ready to walk out the door, do some other things, and having the opportunity to sit down with him and walk through his life and his processes and come up with a better path, that to me is fulfilling.
Amen. And do you mind just giving a quick taste of the current landscape is with like biz buy sell and brokers? Why is it so difficult for regular people to get in? And what is your thoughts about the fact that we're attempting to tech enable the market with a social marketplace for buying businesses?
Yeah, the marketplace is tough right now. You have everybody and their brother who thinks they can buy a business that runs on its own like clockwork, and they're not going to have to put any work into it, and that just doesn't work. And honestly, the operating partner aspect from an outside in perspective makes Acquisition Network somewhat unique because, again, if you watch the talking heads on because I'm in the space, Instagram and whatnot tends to throw me all these ads all the time. In fact, I see Ryan's mug on my Instagram all the time too. But you see all these talking heads that are talking all in the same space. So there's clearly a rush to be on the receiving side of that, and the space is flush with buyers that really don't have an idea, but it creates noise for the brokers. I talk with brokers all the time who talk about this noise. And so they are quickly trying to determine who's a legitimate buyer and who is not. And also, whether it's a good fit for their clients, because a good business broker is going to try to match his clients with the best buyer for the business.
It's not just about the money; it's about
it's
the personality and the experience, right? It's about passing a legacy, right?
It's 100%, and I will tell you that I don't think I was the highest bid on this particular business. At a very minimum, I matched everybody else's bid, but I was chosen over 4 other buyers in this business because I put in the work and I listened and I understood and I actually care, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's an important aspect, and I have those conversations with brokers regularly if I'm able to get my foot past the noise that everybody else is creating that puts a lot of work on brokers' desks. So that's the market right now, just a glut of buyers. And to be honest with you, a lot of them don't know what they're doing. They're not prepared to do it. They might have paid a bunch of money for a course, but that doesn't give you the experience you have. I'm a fairly competent person, but I got defrauded. And that part scares the living daylights out of me that so many people are out there. And I see businesses all the time that are listed on the marketplaces that I can quickly recognize are not really stable businesses, but they might look good on the surface, right? And you have to understand that SBA lenders typically, I shouldn't say typically, there are SBA lenders who are opportunistic, who will just throw caution to the wind and throw a business up there, and the underwriting, may or may not catch it, but they get a commission. So
they get a commission to send the money out no matter what.
Right. They get a commission to send the money out no matter what. The due diligence that is required that the bank walks you through is not sufficient due diligence, right? And so you have to approach it with caution. And so partnering up with Acquisition Network with the resources that are here and the experience is an advantage. And then the other advantage that is, because a lot of people can claim that, but what a lot of people can't claim is that, hey, we can pair you up with people who are willing to help you operate your business so that you are not buying a business that you really haven't worked in before, that you haven't worked in, you don't know the day to day of that business. If you're coming from the corporate world and you're looking at making your own thing, building your own asset, your own cash flowing asset, you might have certain experience in a business, but that doesn't mean that you have run, a pest control company or an HVAC company or a landscaping company,
pool manufacturer in Florida.
right? or a small niche manufacturing business in Florida. There are things that are about those businesses that that you may need help with, and so that's I think a unique niche with Acquisition Network that makes it a fun approach to an otherwise dangerous and somewhat difficult process.
Thank you so much for all of this, Ty. I'm going to ask you one final question. If now we're going to go to the investor side, the people who are paying the money up front to hire someone like you. They're doing their research. They're looking at the Carl Allens, the Cody Sanchez's, the Roland Frasers, the courses, and then they see us. They see that we're charging more, and they also will do some research, and they can see some negative things about Acquisition Network. You may or may not know this, Ty, but before I started Acquisition Network, I had another company that failed where I was starting like e-commerce stores from scratch. And there's some negative things about me, unfortunately, about how people started an Amazon store and it didn't pan out. What would you say to someone who sees that review and because obviously you didn't even know about that, right? You had nothing to do with it. What would you say to an investor that's like doing their final due diligence checks and see something negative about Ryan's past? Like, how can we get them to see that, like, hey, investing into us now, hiring Ty now has nothing to do with Ryan's past, and like, what is the benefit of investing now at this price point, where at the moment you can hire us guys for just $25K. The price is going up soon, and we also have a special offer for $100K, where we do discounted deals, and you get to own 1% of our platform and everything that we do. So, knowing what you know now, Ty, about my experience in the past and what we put together so far, why wouldn't somebody want to invest to own a piece of our platform from your perspective?
I think it's funny that you think I didn't know about your past. But failure is a part of business, and there is risk involved in every business. And taking a class and thinking that is enough to get you past that risk is an awfully high bet to hedge. So, working with not a person, not me, but working within a network of people who are dedicated to your success is a different experience.
Amen.
Right? If you're going, not to say that there's no risk, there's always risk, there's always things that can happen. And I tell my clients this, if a meteor comes down and hits the business headquarters, there's absolutely nothing that you can do for that. But what you can do is work with people who have been through the process, who understand the risks, and I used to do computers, and so you always have backups for everything, right? There are layers of people who are looking at things from Acquisition Network standpoint to make sure that those risks are mitigated, probably, I might say, better than every other platform that's out there. And so mitigating your risk is absolutely worth the investment to work with people, an individual like me and a network of people who are committed to a successful acquisition that doesn't go from $150,000 in revenue to zero in month one, I think is important.
So you did do your research, and you were like, you know what, I'm jumping in it anyway. And what made you do that?
Welcome to the club, Ryan. We both failed at business at one point in time.
Amen. So if you're watching this, guys, and if you want to succeed, understand that failure is a part of success. The people that get what they want are the ones that never say die. Thomas Edison tried 99,000 ways that didn't work, and now he created the light bulb. So if you want to buy a business, hire people that have failed and are committed to your success. So,
I would highly recommend that, because
yeah,
hiring people who are successful all the time are probably bound for failure
yeah,
at some point.
they're bound for failure.
I don't know a businessman that has not failed at some point in time on something, right?
Or he's lying to you and he's a fraud, and then you should run,
Yeah,
right?
that's the real thing.
Cool. Thank you so much for your amazing testimony, Ty. If anybody wants to reach out to you personally for like your own business, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me at ty@legacyoperatingpartners.com.
Okay.
That's kind of my consulting business that I'm spinning up. The notion of that is that I understand that businesses are a legacy for people, and that's what I want to capture with what I'm trying to do with that.
Yeah, so if you own a small business and you want operating support, someone like Ty with experience, just email him, reach out, and he'll be happy to help you with that.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thanks so much. Appreciate you all, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. No.